Okay, two ways to heat your home, solar or electric. Now look at this. The initial costs of solar are very high, that installation cost. But over the years it costs you less to run. So sometime in the future that solar is going to work out cheaper. Okay? So think about this, is how many years do you need to own the solar for it to be cheaper than the electric? Now if we look at the start of this, total cost for 5 years. Alright? Well, for solar, 5 years at $200 a year is $1,000. Okay, isn't it? Yeah. So 5 years, $200 a year, that's $1,000. But you've still got to add in the $25,600 you actually put in the first place. So right now it's $26,600. So $26,600. That's how much it's cost you for the first 5 years. Okay. Now if we look at electric, you know, for 5 years, right, okay, so it's more expensive for the electric, but the installation was cheaper. So calculator. 5 times $1,600 a year equals, plus the $5,500 initial, that's only $13,500. So for 5 years, that's 26,600, okay, 26,000 over. And what was it again for the electric? 13,500. Okay, now that's half. I mean, that's half. 5 years. But how about 10 years? How about 20 years? Okay, are you going to get the savings over that period of time? Now, if we actually kind of put these two things equal to each other, okay, so in other words, we're saying, okay, this is how much it's cost me for the solar, this is how much it's cost me for the electric over those years, I can actually find out what that year is when solar equals electric. Then after that, the solar is going to become cheaper the longer you use it. Okay, so if we can create a couple of equations and put them equal to each other, we'll find out how many years it takes us for solar to equal electric. Right now it's way more expensive. Look at that. Okay, so let's create some equations. Okay, now we've got verbal rules here, but here's the solar. It costs us, so the cost for solar, so I'm going to put y and x. Why not use y and x again? So here's the cost, y. It equals, right, we are paying 200 per year. Okay, so there it is, remember, 200 for every year. So for 1 year it's $200, for 2 years it's $400, for 3 years it's $600, and then we add in the 25,000 that we started with. Okay, that's how we had to pay up front, and that's probably what you were doing, you know, to create this number for 5 years. Okay, I just put 5 where the x is. Now, what's the equation for electric? Okay, so I'll go down a little bit here. Equation for electric. Okay, I'm going to say y equals, and again, don't worry about all these questions here. I'm just looking for these equations. It's costing us $1,600 a year. Okay, there it is for 1 year. So 3,200 for 2 years, 4,800 for 3 years. Again, just replace the x with whatever number you need to in years. But I'm only going to add on 5,500. Okay, that's the initial cost. So those are the two equations. Okay, so if we put these two things equal to each other, I'll find the value of x, that's the number of years where they are equal to each other. Again, right now electric's so much cheaper, but as the years go by, it's going to add up more and more because it costs more a year to run. So let's have a look at a visual representation of that. Okay, and here it is. Okay, so here we go. Electric here. I'm only starting with 5,500 installation cost. Okay, but look at how this is going to increase the price over the years. Okay, look at this. It's going to be more and more and more. It's going to rise quicker. Okay, because it costs more per year to run. Now with solar, of course, much bigger installation costs, so much starting point's very high, but it's going to cost us less over the years, all right, to run it. So somewhere around about here, okay, where they cross, where they're equal to each other, that's going to be the number of years that basically the solar starts to break even. Okay, it's starting to do a better economy than the electric. Okay, so what is that there? Well, what I've got, let's look at the equations. All right, I have 200x. I've got 200x, so 200 per year for the solar, plus expensive 25,600 for the installation cost. Electric is 1,600 per year. Okay, so there's the X, with initial costs of 5,500. Okay. Now, can you see what I've done there? I've put them equal to each other. Okay, I've put them equal to each other. I've got to find out what X equals. All right. Now, notice it's on both sides of the equation. Here's a 200X. Here's a 1600X. Well, okay. Now, if I look for where there's more X's, there's more X's on this side. 1600 is much more than 200. So I'm going to keep the X's on the right. Okay. Which means I don't want the X's on the left. How do I get rid of 200X, a positive 200X? I would subtract 200X. Okay? So that's gone from the left. Don't forget to do it to the right. Okay? So 200X. So what do we have left here? We have 25,600 left on the left. This is going to give me 1,400X. Okay? 1,600 take away 200 is 1,400. And I still have this 5,500 on the right. Okay. So that 1,400X, that's fine right where it is, and that 25,600 is fine where it is. Okay. So again, letters on one side, numbers on the other. So this 5,500 is what I don't want. It's a positive, so I would subtract it from both sides. I'm going to subtract 5,500. Okay. So it's gone. But don't forget to subtract 5,500 from this side. Okay, make sure it looks like a 0. Right, calculator. What is 25,600 take away 5,500? That equals 20100. 20100. 20100. And that still equals 1,400X. Okay? Now remember, we divide by the number next to the letter. So if we divide both sides by that, gone from there, divide this side by 1,400. Get the calculator out. So divide this here, divide it by 1,400, and that equals, right, about 14 years. It's about 14, 14 and a half years. But I'm going to say just round it down to 14, okay? So it's going to take me, okay, so X equals 14 years. So here, right here, after about 14 years, you've pretty much made up that huge installation cost, okay, because it's costing you cheaper to run the solar. So it takes you 14 years, but can you see how we've kind of used those two equations, put them equal to each other and solve for X, and that'll tell me it takes me 14 years for pretty much that solar to then become cheaper over the course of the period of time you own the home.